Another issue I want to raise, and in fact I have raised this issue with the Minister for Health a number of times, and is that of student nurses. I have to say that I was a little bit surprised today to hear members of the government, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, this morning in the Seanad during the Order of Business, calling for recognition and pay of student nurses. I have asked the Minister for Health in the Health Committee, I've asked him in writing, I've asked him in the Chamber to recognise the contribution of student nurses working up and down this country to keep our hospitals open, and now as a result of COVID being in a position where they cannot work elsewhere at paid work in healthcare setting due to the fear of cross-contamination. The Minister has refused a number of times to commit to changing this, so I hope that perhaps having members of the government, senators speaking up for nurses in the Seanad, that this is perhaps a contribution towards a change of government policy, and that perhaps we will see student nurses being paid. I have raised before the gendered issue of student nurses. We have trainees in other areas, apprenticeships, and they get paid. And so there is, and the vast majority of student nurses are women, so I do see that there being also a gender issue at this. And I also will say that the idea that student nurses are in an educational setting and therefore they are not workers is not going to wash with me, it is not going to wash with the INMO, and it is certainly not going to wash with the student nurses, which is something that has been shot back at us when we have raised the issue of student nurses' pay. And there's whisperings that we don't pay any other student worker during their studies, so why should we pay student nurses? And to that I say that all workers, regardless of student status, should be paid for the work that they do. I'm not going to go off on an educational tangent, as I want to do, but we have to be aware that if someone knows they must take on an unpaid placement throughout their studies, and if they may not have the financial support to do that, who are we locking out of that field of study and who is not going to be able to undertake that field of study? So it's just on that. But back to the student nurses, I'd like to know, Minister, what is being done about student nurses? What are you going to do about student nurses' pay, and what are you going to say to those student nurses who are right now on COVID wards and putting their lives at risk so as to help us battle through this health crisis?